again, everyone, and after a 2-year or so hiatus, welcome back to another edition of our Louisville Bats podcast. I'm Nick Curran, the Louisville Bats radio broadcaster, kind of unnamed right now. You may have tuned in for our franchise at 40 episodes and getting ready next season in 2025 to celebrate the 25th season of baseball at Louisville Slugger Field, and hoping to pump out some episodes celebrating some of the major figures and people that have made both on and off the field the last 25 seasons, or by then 25 seasons at Louisville Slugger Field, so special at the corner of Preston and Main here in downtown Louisville, from when it was conceptualized and built and all the way through to present day, hoping to bring you a lot of the people that had a role in that. You got some with the franchise at 40 episodes. Gary Ulmer talking a lot about the vision and then the execution of getting this place built. Greg Galliette did a little bit as well, hoping to have him back on to maybe focus more in on that time of transitioning from Old Cardinal Stadium to Louisville Slugger Field. So more of those episodes hopefully coming in the coming months and weeks and into the off season leading up to the 2025 season. For now, though, we celebrate the Bats manager, Pat Kelly, who certainly has been a big figure here in this ballpark and in its history. Now in his fourth full season of the Bats. He's the only manager the Bats have known since return to play out of COVID. And this season in 2024 on July 11th, celebrated his 2,000th win as a minor league manager, becoming just the 7th manager ever with 2,000 minor league wins, just the 3rd active manager, joining Buddy Bailey and former Bat skipper, current Nashville skipper Rick Sweet. He, PK, got his 2,000th win with a 3-2 victory over the St. Paul Saints here on July 11th. The Bats turned a double play to end it. Here is how it sounded on the radio call. 1-1 pitch. Here's a bouncer up the middle, slowly hit, fielded near the back. Soto steps on, throws to first, double play, ball game over. And Pat Kelly becomes just the 7th manager ever with 2,000 career wins. The 3rd active manager, appropriate. The Bats finish it with a double play. Tony Santillan closes it out. Hugs for PK from the entire coaching staff. And there it is, PK2K here tonight as his staff out around him. And the Bats win it by the final score of 3-2. And Pat Kelly gets win number 2,000 in his career. So PK, an emotional moment, 2,000 wins. And, we figured it was only appropriate to kind of kick off this look at 25 seasons of baseball here at Louisville Slugger Field with the man himself, talking about his career and his, of course, wins as a manager and years as a manager and all the people he's impacted, and whether it's been coaches, players, trainers, broadcasters, whatever the case may be, obviously has impacted a lot of lives in the game of baseball, and certainly that's shown in the outpouring that we saw after he won the 2000 game. The Bats had a celebration on the field for him on July 20th. There were a ton of people here from the Reds organization, and every time something like that happened, as we'll talk about during the episode, everyone in the dugout standing in there to take it in. So really cool stuff, and we certainly appreciate you tuning in for this episode. However you have found us, whether it's on SoundCloud, YouTube perhaps, iTunes, YouTube Music, we certainly thank you for checking us out and hope you'll continue to check back, because hopefully we'll be pumping out some new episodes more often. Looking forward to bringing you as many more of these as possible, but without any further ado, we celebrate the man that got 2,000 wins as a minor league manager this year, the Bats manager, PK himself, Pat Kelly, here on our Louisville Bats podcast. 2,000 wins just as we record this a few weeks ago. Your 2,000, at least in MILB, as it were, just the 7th ever to do that, and 3rd active. And, PK, first of all, what's that mean to you, just to hit that milestone? Pretty neat.
It is pretty neat. I mean, initially I didn't quite grasp everything, obviously with the 2 active managers, with Buddy Bailey and Rick Sweet ahead of me, it meant something. But then to find out that you're only the 7th ever, and there's been some some great managers through the years, and back in the day when I played, I mean, guys managed forever. So you got guys like Stan Wozniak, who I think is at the top of the lineup. He was like Mr. Baseball with the Dodgers forever. So guys back in the day managed a lot longer, and I've just been fortunate to do the same thing.
Yeah, and we'll start kind of at the beginning and jump around a little bit. But you obviously you played, originally drafted by the Angels, and then traded to the Blue Jays. Got your time in the big leagues as a Jay, and I know some time in Atlanta as well. But I've read a little bit about your time in the big leagues, the 3 games, and getting a chance to play at Fenway and Yankee Stadium. Pretty neat. What was that like, getting to go to the big leagues?
Well, I mean, that was, really awesome. I really wasn't playing that good in Syracuse, so it kind of caught me by surprise. And in those days, we called it you were frozen. You had to go back through waivers to get called up. And I was fortunate to clear waivers, go to the big leagues. Played my first game in Fenway Park. Got a couple of hits, one scratch infield hit, and was able to play the next night. We went to Yankee Stadium, and you can't think of 2 better places to play as a young player. But going back a little bit on the trade, going to the Blue Jays, I always say I was traded for a radio announcer because Ron Fairley was an all-star player actually the first year of expansion with the Blue Jays, first baseman. And he got traded to the Angels for me and a player named Butch Alberts, and then played 1 year and then went into the radio booth. So I got traded for a radio announcer.
I can think of no just less honor that you could possibly have than that.
I'm glad you said that.
That's we'll fully wear that. That's a tough one right there. Did you know that you wanted to get into coaching after you were done playing, or when did you kind of think that was something you might want to do?
No, I mean, I wanted to stay in baseball. I always thought I would go into the front office and do something. But I remember towards the end of my career playing for a great manager, Dennis Holmberg, who was 50 years with the Toronto Blue Jays. And I remember him talking to me at the end of the season, and he said, have you ever thought about coaching? And I said, absolutely not. And little did I know down the line. But I was playing it. It was actually the last year of my playing career. I was in Glen Falls, and I was kind of Crash Davis. I was the veteran guy that helped some young pitchers. And about halfway through the year, I was battling a torn cartilage in my knee, and I had some elbow problems. And we weren't a very good team. And in baseball, when you're not a good team, they start dumping the veteran salaries. So eventually it came time that, my playing time got limited, and Smokey Garrett was the manager. And I went in to talk to Smokey, and I said, hey, what's going on? And he goes, well, this is like on a Thursday. He says, I'm going to have to release you on Sunday. But there's a pitching coach job available in Niagara Falls. Would you be interested? And my youngest son, Chris, was a baby at the time. And I said, yeah, I need a job. So ended up the White Sox released me and then hired me as the pitching coach in Niagara Falls, and that started my coaching career.
I read in an article about you that you bought a book about pitching at the mall. Is that true? Is that how you started to learn to be a pitching coach?
Well, I mean, all catchers are pretty good
anyway,
because you're around the pitching coaches, you're catching bullpens, you hear the way they talk to them and the terms that they use. So, you have key things that you throw out to them. But, no, I got the job. I flew I was going to fly from Albany, New York to Niagara Falls. And the general manager of the Glen Falls Club was driving me there. And as we were leaving town, there was a mall on the outskirts of town. And I said, hey, can we stop? And I went in the bookstore and I bought Bob Shaw's book on pitching. And I read it all the way to Niagara Falls and became a pitching coach.
That is phenomenal.
And I had a Cy Young Award winner on that team in Doug Drabeck. So obviously I didn't screw him up.
That's the key. That's all you're trying to do, not mess him up. You spent a few years as a pitching coach and then got your first chance to manage in 1986 in Charleston. How did that come about?
Well, we were with the White Sox. Dave Dombrowski was our farm director. They fired Roland Heeman, the general manager, and brought in Hawk Harrelson. And Hawk had this thing. If you didn't play 10 years in the big leagues, you couldn't coach in the minor leagues. So basically fired us all. And we had some great people. I mean, John Bowles was there. We had some tremendous instructors. And so we all got let go. And I remember talking to Dave Dombrowski. And that year in I was actually a double-A pitching coach in Glen Falls that year in '85. And they had to activate me because our catcher, Ron Karkovice, got hurt in a play at the plate and tore his knee up. So they activated me, and I ended up playing and being the pitching coach the last month and a half of the season. And so Dave Dombrowski said, I know you want to manage, go out and, he says, I'll help you as much as I can. We'll see if we can't get you a job. But if not, I'll hire you as a 6-year free agent. You can go be the backup in Buffalo, which was the AAA team for the White Sox at the time. And around Christmas time, San Diego Padres called and they offered me a job in Charleston, South Carolina, and so I took it, and that was my first managing job.
The rest is history, as it were. How was that transitioning from, well, obviously playing into a pitching coach, and then I think a different role, obviously, when you're the manager and kind of focused on everybody rather than just the pitchers. What was kind of that like?
Well, I was fortunate. 2 of the 3 years I was a pitching coach, Steve Dillard was the manager, former Cubs shortstop, and Steve hated pitchers, so he wanted nothing to do with it. So he let me get the guys up, tell them when to bring guys in, and so I ran the pitching staff, which I think is very good experience for a manager. But of course, being a former catcher, being a pitching coach, now you're going to be the manager. You think you're totally prepared, and man, did that game get really fast. But I was very fortunate. I had a really young club. All my infielders ended up playing in the big leagues, but my third baseman was 18 years old. My shortstop was 18. Carlos Baerga, my second baseman, was 17 at the time. So we were really young. We made a lot of errors, and I wasn't very patient as a young manager. So, Rodney McRae was my center fielder. We used to call them Rainbow Rallies because we were the Charleston Rainbows, and we couldn't hit. And, Rodney would walk. He'd steal second, steal third. Next guy would strike out. Next guy would pop up. And then they'd throw a wild pitch, and Rodney'd score, and we'd score a run. So that was kind of our rallies in those days. But, no, it was a great experience and really good experience for me because in those days the pitchers hit, even in A-ball. So I had never played on a National League team other than a little bit with the Braves where the pitchers hit. So it was really good experience for me. And I was kind of a double switching fool as a young manager. It was like, where's Waldo? You never knew where my pitcher was in the lineup. But I just made sure they didn't hit. But I loved it. I love the National League game. I think it keeps your bench in the game. They got a chance to play every day. And there was a lot of strategy involved. So I was very fortunate as a young manager to be able to do that right away in A-ball.
Yeah, and you mentioned Carlos Baerga. He had to politic to play a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's a great story. In those days, we didn't have extended spring. So when you had extra players, they just kind of sent them with you. And so he came with me to Charleston. At that time, you only carried maybe 22, 23 players. And so we just carried him as an extra guy. And he was going to go to Spokane, which was rookie ball for us, when June opened up. And so, but because of the National League situation, I could pinch hit him. And every so often, I'd pinch him in a game, and he'd hit a bullet someplace. And so he didn't speak any English in those days. And after about a month, he knocked on my door, and he says, why no play? And I said, Carlos, you're the rookie. You're going to go to Spokane in June. You're just here to practice. And he'd say, okay. And then about a week later, he'd knock on my door again. And so about the fourth time he did that, I was a little perturbed. And I remember being in Spartanburg in this little tiny manager's office. I mean, it couldn't have been any bigger than having the desk and the chair, and that was it. And he knocks on my door, and he's like, why no play? And I by that time had learned the Spanish word for rookie, and so I said, you're the novato. You're not going to play. And but then I remember we were playing the Mets team from Colombia the next day, and the best pitcher in the league at the time was pitching against us. So I said, I tell you what. I said, you're going to play tomorrow. So I put him in against the best pitcher in the league, and I think he was 3 for 4, all 4 line drives, 2 doubles. And so I called my farm director, and I said, would it be okay if I played him a little bit more? And he said, yeah, but he's still going to Spokane. And I said, okay. So I just started playing him every day, and he just kept hitting and kept hitting. And ended up June came, and he never left us and stayed the whole year, and ended up hitting like 265 his first year, and went on to be an excellent major league player. Actually, I always felt a better defender in the big leagues than he was ever in the minor leagues, which you don't see that very often. But he really worked on his defense, and I don't think he was ever known as a great defender. You're always a better defender when you hit, but he could always swing the bat. I mean, it was so fun to watch him play.
That is a great story. Put him in against the best guy, and okay, 3 for 4.
That's right. I'll show you.
That's right. Guess you're playing more. You've had a lot of guys over the years that clearly have gone on to have great careers and to various degrees. I know Vladimir Guerrero, senior now, I guess, but back then just Vladimir Guerrero. That has to be pretty cool when you see guys, someone that you managed end up in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean that's really cool. I mean, I had Vladimir, I had Roy Halladay.
That's right.
In Syracuse, I was fortunate in winter ball. I had Ivan Rodriguez and Roberto Alomar. So it's fun to see those guys then go into the Hall of Fame and have those kind of careers. I mean, such exceptional players, and it makes you really realize how good Hall of Fame players are, because those guys stood out from day one. Vladimir was 19 years old. He had knee problems, so he actually started the year in the Florida State League, played the first month because the weather was better. But when he came to Harrisburg, I mean, it was night in and night out, the best player on the field every day. And it wasn't just offensively. It was running the bases. It was playing defense. It was throwing guys out. But there was something he did every night that was better than everybody else on the field. And that's what really shows you that, how good those players are. I mean, you can send, I probably sent 500 players to the big leagues, but there's that 4 or 5 that really stand out that, were that much better than everybody else.
Amazing. You obviously kind of progressed through the Padres system, AA, Reno, and then AA with Wichita, ended up in AAA Las Vegas, I think, in 1990. And you've been obviously throughout your career at a lot of different levels and kind of bounce back and forth. What's the difference between managing guys, who are maybe in low A or rookie ball or whatever the case may be, versus managing guys at this level where you are now at AAA? You've obviously had to sort of jump back and forth oftentimes from year to year. What's that like, just trying to sort of recalibrate yourself to the level that you're at in the age group you have?
I think that's the biggest thing, is just understanding the level you're at. The first time I managed AAA, I was 34 years old. I had players the same age as me, so that made for a very interesting dynamic. But I think the AAA level is more veteran players, but you also have young guys that you're trying to nurture through the system. So it's a different type of player that you're handling, and you have to understand, the veteran player who maybe has some big league time, trying to get back to the big leagues. So you're doing things to make him attractive to the organization, so they might call him up. The young players, you're trying to get them playing time. You're trying to polish them up a little bit so they can go to the big leagues. AA is the funnest for me. I mean, it's you have more prospects. You have younger players. They still kind of listen. And I've always enjoyed the AA level. I've been very fortunate. I've managed in some great cities for minor league baseball. Wichita and Harrisburg and Pensacola and Chattanooga. So I've been very fortunate and really had some good players. The A-ball level is everybody's just trying to feel each other out. The better players are starting to stand out now. And you don't have the age difference that you have at some of the other levels. So it takes a lot more patience. And then, 2007, I went back to rookie ball.
That's right.
I didn't think I'd ever do rookie ball, and I ended up going back and probably having the best time of my life. I got to stay home, which was nice. My youngest son, Casey, was in high school. At that time, we were in Sarasota, so I got to run the extended program and the Gulf Coast League and stay home. But at the same time, I always complained as a manager, who taught these guys how to play? And, now I'm at the rookie level, and I'm not just teaching them to play. I mean, I'm teaching them how to shower, how to wash their clothes, everything. I mean, a lot of them, it's their first time away from home. And so it was a great experience for me, and really, really turned out to be, I think, an epiphany for my managing, that I got a chance to kind of sit back and, my kids were almost the same age as those players. And, they would run into my players every so often around town, and they would say, the players would say, "Oh, your dad is so scary." And my kids would just laugh because they really know. And, it just dawned on me that, you have that presence. You don't have to force yourself on anybody. And I think it really, really changed my style of managing. And I've had a lot more fun establishing relationships with players, which I think is huge nowadays. We always complain about the millennials and the Gen Zs and all that, but, it's really become a relationship game. And I think, for managers and coaches, it's so important to be able to establish those relationships, because I really think it helps with your players. And it's made my job a lot more fun, and that's probably why I'm still doing it.
There was somebody somewhere that said, "Who taught this guy to play?" And they were talking about you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Hopefully it was good,
yeah,
but usually it's not.
Yeah, who taught this guy to play? That's phenomenal. Yeah, tone means everything, I think, when they're uttering that phrase. You obviously started coaching Padres and then Expos, had a stint with the Reds. Do you need to take that? We can.
No.
Okay.
I think we're good.
All right, we'll edit it out.
We're not making a player move yet.
Okay, well, it'll be coming soon. It always is. But stint with the Reds, Expos, Blue Jays, Braves, and then you obviously have spent more time with the Reds, I think, than any other organization on the coaching and managing side. What has kind of kept you in the Reds organization, and why is, you mentioned it, guys used to manage a long time, but I don't know. It seems like nowadays, in a lot of instances, and maybe guys don't necessarily stick in the same organization for a lot of years, but you have. How has that worked? Why has that worked?
Well, early in my career, I made organizational changes not by choice. Either your GM got replaced or whatever, and we would get let go. So, not my favorite thing. Searching for a job, but it just seemed that I got to a point in my career when I came over to Cincinnati. I was treated very well. I was allowed to do my job, which we don't always get to do in this game. And the first year I went to the big leagues for a little bit to be the bench coach.
Yep.
The second half of the year, and it's just been a great organization. They've treated me with a lot of respect, and I really haven't wanted to go any other place. I've interviewed a couple times for some big league jobs, but other than going to the big leagues, I love what I do and I love the organization. They've been very good to me, and so for me, there's no reason to look for the next job. And I think that's kind of the way the game has developed. I mean, we bring in a lot more younger coaches, probably because we pay them less, but and everybody's climbing. Everybody's trying to get to the next job. And I've always had a philosophy that, enjoy where you're at. Whatever happens, happens. And I think I'm at an age now where, I don't worry about those things. I'm not trying to get to the next job. I'm not, hoping that the next job gets me a big bump in salary. I'm very comfortable with what I'm doing, and I'm treated with great respect in this organization. So I don't see a reason to go anyplace else.
You mentioned a couple of big league stints in this organization as well, that early one, and then recently in 2018, you went up to be the bench coach for Jim Riggleman. and left us high and dry. So thanks for that. But what were those experiences like? Getting a chance to be up there and be in that role at the big league level.
Well, I think it was a great experience for me because one, it's two men that I really respect: Pete McCannon, the first time in 07, and then obviously Jim Riggleman in 18. Guys that I've managed against in the minor leagues or have seen across the diamond from me, and I've always respected. And then getting to work underneath them, you just realize how good they are. The 07 one for me was great because I was in the Gulf Coast League, and I remember we went over to Twin Lakes, which was the Orioles complex, to play a game with them, and it was probably one of the worst rookie ball games I've ever seen. I mean, it was a snowball fight. I mean, each team had about 6 or 7 errors and balls flying all over the place, and of course we got beat. And I just remember sitting in the van, and it's dripping sweat because it's Florida, it's 90 degrees with 90% humidity, and sometimes questioning the career choice I made to be here. And the phone rings, and it's Pete McCannon, and he goes, he says, "I want you to be my bench coach in Cincinnati." And I didn't know at the time that Jerry Nairn had been let go and that Bucky Dent had quit, and any of that. So, and Pete has a very dry sense of humor, and we've known each other, since the 70s. So I was like, "Pete, this is not a time for a joke. I'm in a really bad mood right now, and this isn't funny." And he goes, "No," he says, "I'm serious." He says, "I got named the major league manager," and he says, "I want you to be my bench coach." He says, "Can you be there tomorrow?" I said, "Well, Pete, if this is true, I can be there tonight. They got flights from Sarasota to Cincinnati. I can get there." And he says, "I need you there tomorrow." So, of course, now you got your mind is spinning and all that kind of stuff. And so I end up leaving the next morning, flying to Cincinnati, and we played the Giants. And it was King Griffey Jr. versus Barry Bonds. After watching the day before the game I saw with the Orioles and the Reds Rookie League, and it was such a culture shock, but a good culture shock. And great moment. I really enjoyed it. I had a great summer with Pete. Really learned a lot. And then in 18, being here in Louisville and getting the call in the middle of the night from Dick Williams and saying, "We'd like you to be the bench coach. We need you in St. Louis tomorrow." I remember calling Steve Gober, the trainer, and he says, "I'm not getting you a flight."
Let's see. No chance.
He says, "You're not with us anymore." He says, "Call the big league guy." So anyway, going there, and then just a fantastic summer because, Jim Riggleman is so sharp and so far ahead of the game. We all think we can manage in the big leagues, and then you see a guy who really can and is one step ahead of every manager. It was really a great experience for me, and and that's the thing. You're always trying to grow in this game. You don't always get the opportunity to work under people. They put you in charge, so you're in charge all the time. So it was great. Those 2 years were so good for me because I got to be under somebody else, somebody I really respected, and really learned a lot.
How cool was it in 18? Maybe as opposed to 07, this might have been a little bit different. In 18, I would imagine there were a lot of guys that you had coming up through the system that were on that team. In 07, maybe not so because you had just kind of rejoined the organization. But how was that going up in 2018 and having guys that you knew already?
Exactly. It was a huge difference. In 07, I didn't know anybody. Joey Votto came up later in the year from Louisville, and I knew Joey a little bit from minor league spring training, but that was about it. So in 18, basically everybody on that team had played for me somewhere along the line. So much easier for me relationship-wise, and really, I think I was a big help for Jim because I knew the players as well as he did, and I think it really helped. And then when guys would come up, obviously I knew them from either having them in Pensacola or in Louisville.
Yeah, those 10 days or whatever it was, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Fantastic stuff. How about this is something that I guess is probably throughout any level as a manager, but especially at AAA, balancing trying to win, but also developing guys. That's always kind of the age-old thing, I guess. But but how's that been for you, trying to sort of find that balance between doing things that can help you win versus doing things that that helps a guy develop? Because a lot of times they are the same thing, but sometimes they're not the same thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a balancing act a little bit, but I think, you know your job. You know your job is player development. So it is being able to develop those players. And obviously the young players have to be allowed to make their mistakes. And you know that you're not going to pinch hit for them. So it limits your pinch hitting things, but at the same time, it's good because it puts guys in situations that maybe they wouldn't normally be in, and sometimes they succeed. I remember being in Chattanooga one year, and I had Pokey Reese, and Pokey Reese it's the year that his girlfriend had died, who had just had their baby, and so Pokey was late to spring training. He ended up going to AA. He was only 19 years old, and he was very overmatched. He went 0 for 36 to start the season. His first hit was a swinging bunt down third base line that hit the bag, and I remember late in the year, it was about the 14th inning of a game, and Pokey came up with the bases loaded, and he hit a grand slam to win the game. And I remember Jim Bowden was the general manager, so the philosophy in the Reds organization was a little different at that time. It was all about winning. And I remember the farm director saying to me, I can't believe you didn't pinch hit. You had Mark Merchant on the bench, who was a really good hitter in the minor leagues. And I said, well, Chief, I can't believe you asked me that question. But, I think that's what player development's all about, because from that point on, Pokey Reese took off, became a tremendous defensive player, played in the big leagues for the Reds for a long time. And so you never know what's going to make that player for everything to click for him. And sometimes it's just showing some confidence in him and letting him play. And, that's kind of always been my philosophy, is that you let the players play. Obviously, you manage the game, but the players play. And at this level, it's a little different because you're getting guys ready to play in the big leagues. And sometimes, there are some moves that you make that maybe you wouldn't make at the lower levels. But it basically, your decision always comes down to, the organization and what's best for that player. But we all like to win, and if you have an opportunity to win the game, you're going to try to do it. So, and I think that's where that fine line comes in, and you have to remind yourself sometimes that, this is player development, and sometimes you don't make the move that you would normally make, or that you would think you would make if you were the big league manager. But it seems to work out. I think those players end up figuring out a way, and there's a reason why they're a top prospect. And usually those abilities take over, and hopefully they take over in clutch situations.
And learning how to win is sort of part of player development, isn't it? I would imagine that's something that has been there with you over the years as well.
Yeah, and I think, we're all competitive. We all want to win. And I think as a manager, you try to ingrain that in your players. It is about winning. We're not just going to lay over because, this is player development. I was in an organization for years, the Toronto Blue Jays, and they didn't care about anything. They just wanted those nine guys to play every day, and then those guys got to the big leagues and never knew how to win a game. And you look at when the Blue Jays won, they went out and got Joe Carter. They went out and got Roberto Alomar. They got winning players. So I think that's part of the development process. Is you're not only developing players, but you're trying to develop winning players.
And that's obviously something at this level. AAA, real quick, a little bit of a tangent, but AAA specifically, there's so much. How much of a challenge is this level as opposed to others? Just in obviously the roster moves, we know that there's a lot of volatility up and down, but you talked a little bit about it earlier. But managing personalities at this level may be a little tougher because there's probably more bitterness here than there would be at other levels. I would imagine it stands to reason, and there's just more personalities because you have more guys that shuffle in and out over the course of a year. How unique of a challenge is is this level maybe compared to others?
Oh, I think it's the toughest challenge in all of baseball. Your roster continually fluctuates. You think you've got your guys in a pretty good spot, and then all of a sudden, 2 or 3 guys are taken to the big leagues, or somebody gets traded. This time of the year with the trade deadline, it gets real crazy. So it's just the constant turnover, and you just try to keep the same attitude in the clubhouse. And then, my thing is that, I was one of those guys. I was one of those guys in AAA that, that thought they should have been in the big leagues. So you have to remember that if you didn't think you could play in the big leagues, you wouldn't still be playing. So obviously those guys, they have a reason to be bitter, but you got to be able to kind of tone that bitterness down so that you can play. And my big thing is, don't prove that they were right. If you're mad about being sent down, don't come out here and with your head down and kicking everything and then proving that the major league team was right to send you down. Show them that they made a mistake. And I think when you really appeal to players that way, on a personal level, I think they finally click. And then, I've always had a rule that, I let you mule lip for one day when you get sent down, and then after that we go to work. Obviously there was a reason why we got sent down. Nowadays it's a little different because of manipulations of the rosters and DFAs and options and all that kind of stuff. But, most of the time you're sent down because there was something you weren't doing, and so let's work on that, whether it's defense or whether it's, being able to drive runners in or being a better hitter average-wise. There's things we can work on to make ourselves better and make ourselves more attractive, not only to our team, but to the other 29.
You've obviously been at this a long time. How much, and maybe the biggest ways, the job has changed over the years since when you started in 1986 as a manager till now? What I know technology is different and all that, but what are some of the biggest changes over that time?
Well, I just think the conditions. I always remember Dave Dombrowski talking about, we put these guys on complexes, playing day games in Florida and Arizona with wire fences because we want the strong to survive. And then we send them to A-ball, and, they play in terrible ballparks with terrible hotels and ride terrible buses because the strong survive. And then they go to Double-A, and they got to ride buses for 18 hours because the strong survive. And then they go to AAA, and everybody's excited because they get to fly. Now they got to get up at 4 a.m. and fly every 3 days because the strong survive. And I think we've lessened that. The hotels are much better. The ballparks are so much better. The clubhouses, the way nutrition is, the way we feed the players. I just think everything has improved so much. That it just allows the players to be comfortable and go out and play.
Have the players changed over the years? I would imagine maybe a little bit, but also I would imagine there's some similarities too.
Yeah, I think we make a lot more of it than it is. I think ball players are basically the same. We treat them different, and rightfully so. Back in the day when I played, the manager told you how much he hated you, and then you went out and played. Now we tell them how much we love them, and we let them go out and play. But, it's just a different way. I think it's a better way. We treat the players so much better. We have more coaches, so obviously we can do a lot more individual stuff with them. And I just think the players develop quicker. And, you still have your guys that are what we call grinders and gamers and all that kind of stuff. So we still have that type of player, but we also have extremely talented players, probably more talented than we've ever had, and that makes it fun to watch those guys get better.
What's your favorite part of being a manager?
Oh, sending a guy to the big leagues. There's nothing better, and it's not. There are certain guys on your team that are going to play in the big leagues, and that's great. And I'm happy for them. But it's that guy that it's come on unexpected. They got an opportunity to play. I think Levi Jordan, great example this year. Just got a chance. I remember talking to Marty Peavy in Des Moines, and he says I just couldn't get the poor kid at bats. And fortunately with us, he did, and he performed, and he got to the big leagues. So I think those are the guys, because you obviously root for them, and you want everybody to get a chance to go to the big leagues, and it's just great because you're the guy that tells them that they're going to be able to reach their dreams.
You've become known for that over the years, I think. Are there any good ones that stand out? You mentioned guys like a Levi or a Fernando Cruz, or guys who, maybe have been at it for a while and finally get a chance, but either that or any good like jokes you've played on guys that stand out over the years that you've been able to get somebody pretty good with.
Well, I think the one that stands out is Ryan Friedel when we were not Ryan, TJ Friedel,
yeah,
in Memphis. And it just, things just happen to work. I don't think you plan these things. I think they just happen, and you kind of go with them. But we got a call that somebody got hurt in the big leagues, that TJ was going to have to go up, and we needed to take him out of the game. Well, he was at home plate, so we let him hit. He popped up, ran down the line, and TJ, obviously everybody knows, is a hustler, and he was mad, and so he came in the dugout, and I told him to sit down, and I was putting somebody else in, and initially he thought it was just like a double switch or something, and then he recognized it wasn't. So then he was trying to find out why he got taken out of the game, and finally I just said, well, you didn't run that ball out. And of course he argued with me, and he's never been told he didn't run a ball out. So he pouted for an inning or two, and then I don't know who did it, but somebody had him go coach first base, because we didn't have an extra coach in those days. And so he's out coaching first base, and he's got his arms folded, and steam is coming out of his helmet, and of course everybody on the bench knows but him, and so we're having fun with it. And then the game ends, and it just worked out perfectly that he was right ahead of me going up the steps, and my office is the first thing you get to in the visiting clubhouse in Memphis. And so I said, Friedel, get your butt in my office. And all the players, they know. So I closed the door, and they're all right behind the door, or on the other side. There's like a bathroom between the coach's office and the manager's office. So they're all hovering in the bathroom. And so I said, you want to know why I took you out of the game? And he says, yeah. And I said, do you think it was because you didn't run hard? And he goes, no, I ran hard. And so he's getting very upset. I said, well, I took you out of the game because you're going to the big leagues. And he just kind of was stunned, and then both doors opened, and all the players jumped in, and it was probably one of the best. I like the one with Fernando Cruz only because we had gotten complaints about guys with their scooters, and Greg Galliette, the general manager, said, hey, somebody's going to get hurt. These guys are riding up and down the hallway in their scooters. Somebody's going to come out of one of those rooms and get clobbered. And so I had a team meeting to tell them about the scooters. Well, just before the meeting, got a call that Cruz was going up. So it just worked out perfect. I'm talking to the guys about the scooters. Once you come in, you got to walk them down, and don't run them out over the outfield. And then I said, Cruz, you got a scooter, right? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, you can take that scooter to Cincinnati. So that was pretty good. We've had some good ones. With Chris Oakey going, and some of the others that have really stood out. I got Nick Martini to help me a little bit with the one for McLean, only because it was after a Sunday day game, and I happened to call. I had to call McLean and tell him he was going up, and so I called Matt, and I said, what are you doing? He says, oh, we're just having dinner and drinks. I'm here with Martini and so-and-so or whatever. And I said, give the phone to Martini. And so Nick gets on there, and I said, hey, McLean's going to the big leagues, but I said, let's stretch this out a little bit. So Nick was really good with it, and we just kind of played it off. And then after about 10 minutes, we finally told him. And I think Martini was happier than McLean because he had kind of adopted him as his son. So Nick was a proud papa, and we were able to tell him he was going to the big leagues, and he's been there ever since.
He has not come back. Really cool stuff. That's just dreams coming true right in front of you is an amazing thing, I think. What's the biggest challenge over the years? Your biggest challenge in time in kind of in managing and working in it?
I just think that when you don't have a really good team, just trying to keep the guys competing every day. Baseball can be a very selfish game. AAA can be an even more selfish game. Everybody's a free agent at the end of the year. They become mercenaries sometimes, and so just keeping them in that team mode. Trying to win games. And we've had some trying years here in Louisville. Where we only won 60 games or something, and so to me that's the biggest thing is that you can't let that get to you because then it reflects on your club. So you've got to come in with that positive attitude every day, and you've got to be able to convince the players. And then there comes a point in the season where you try to keep those bitter veterans away from your young prospects, so that they don't poison them also. So it's a test, but it's fun. That's why I enjoy it, and that's why I still do it to this day.
The players, the personalities, the players, coaches, general managers of these minor league teams, whatever the case may be, I think that's really one of the most fun parts about working in this for all involved and traveling around and encountering a lot of the. Do you have any go-to stories from over the years about, I don't know if it's players, opposing players, coaches, opposing coaches, GMs? We both know some interesting cats in that realm, some of the front offices in terms of not at the major league level, but talking about it at the affiliates, broadcasters, plenty of those too. Are there any great stories that stand out for you about just some of the personalities that you encounter? Because you've encountered a lot of them.
Well, I think that's just the biggest thing is just the personalities. You've got a Howard Kellman in Indianapolis. Well, I managed there in 1991, and he was our announcer. And I always remember Howard is a big physical activity guy. Now he likes to lift weights and do stuff, but in those days he ran, and he didn't like running the streets. He didn't. He's from New York. He doesn't trust drivers, which I don't blame him.
No.
But so I remember we would go to Denver, and we would stay next to the ballpark, and it was a Holiday Inn. It was a circular Holiday Inn, and Howard would run his 45 minutes to an hour on floor 8, just round and round again. And I just kept thinking, I'm not that tough mentally. There's no way I could do that. I got to get out and when I'm doing my jogging. I can't do that. And we were in a Days Inn in Nashville, and I just remember him running up and down the hallway, for an hour. And I'm like, how can you do that? But it's a testament to him.
Yeah.
As a person that he was going to get it done no matter what. But I think that's the biggest thing, just the different personalities. You get the GMs that are, I had Tex Simone in Syracuse. I played for him, and then I was a manager there. And I can remember he was huge on batting practice balls, and he would actually pay kids to be on the other side of the fence, and he would pay them 10 cents a ball or whatever. So we didn't necessarily have really good batting practice balls, and so I remembered that. And so my second year going there, I brought a box of balls from spring training, and I put them up on top of my locker. And I knew that Tex used to come in and check everybody's locker in case there was baseballs or whatever. And which you have to understand. Tex was in his 60s then, maybe 70s, and he was, and so I saw the box up there, and I said, he's going to find that thing. So I had the clubby hide it in one of the auxiliary locker rooms at one time, and then we got to the point where we might need it, so I had him bring it out. So I wrote dishes on it, like I had an apartment. Those are my dishes or something. So I come in one day, and there's Tex. He's got to be 70 years old, and he's on this balancing on one leg on this chair, going, I don't think this is dishes. I think this might be baseballs. And I'm like, no, Tex, those are my dishes. Leave it alone. But I just always remember he would, and I swear he went to play it against sports and bought baseballs there, so we would have batting practice balls, and the bat boys had to take the balls at the end of batting practice and take them into his office, and he would lock them in a safe. And and then I think about how we treat baseballs nowadays, and we throw them into the stands all the time. The ball bounces and hits the dirt; it's out of the game. We've got thousands of batting practice balls, and in those days it was like, man, if he'd raise it to a quarter, he might get more of those balls back for 10 cents.
That's phenomenal. Like, that's the great stuff that people don't see, but I think is absolutely wonderful just about all this. So many great personalities like that over the years. Kind of wrap things up here, but kind of bringing it back home, back to that 2000th MILB win, the 7th ever to 2,000 minor league wins just a couple of weeks ago as we record this. How much did it mean to you? Obviously, the win is cool and being in that exclusive group, but then your group now, your coaches and players, after you did it, there was obviously the big celebration in the clubhouse, which was incredibly cool to see video of. But on the field, we interviewed you after the game ended. Everybody stayed in the dugout. I thought that was so cool that after it happened on that night against St. Paul, it was a sellout there on the dugout railing. Nobody left.
Yeah, I think that's the three things that really stand out from it. One is your interview afterwards, and all the players stand there. Let's be honest. Players, game's over. They want to get out of there. They want to shower. They want to go see their wife. And they all stayed there, and I thought that was awesome. The pregame ceremony we had, and all the players out in the dugout, and even Andy Tracy in the other dugout, the Columbus manager. Just a tremendous sign of respect, and really was something I'll never forget. And then I think the third thing was the T-shirts. Totally surprised, and then to find out that the one T-shirt everybody in the organization wore that next day, even the guys in the big leagues. And I was talking to Vince Harrison, and he says that T-shirt has become the batting practice T-shirt for everybody in Dayton for the whole year. So that's pretty incredible. Like I told you before, it's kind of hard to wear your own T-shirt.
Yeah.
But I love the two that were made. Obviously the one that the Reds made, but then the ones that the Bats made, with the picture on the back was really cool. And so I think I'll remember those things more than anything.
An incredible thing to see this year. But I guess we'll kind of wrap it up like this. Just what you've obviously left a mark on the game, and so many people over the years, I think, that have encountered you, whether it's players, coaches, broadcasters, front office people, a lot of people we just named. We obviously put that video together of your of a bunch of people wishing you congratulations, and it was amazing. Just everyone was like, "Oh yeah, let's whoever you got in touch with said, yeah, I'm definitely going to do that, or I'll have it to you shortly." How neat is that for you, and how much does that mean to you that you've been able to impact so many lives? Because I think in whatever profession you're in, you that's something you hope to do is have an impact, and you've done that. That has to be incredible to be able to look back on.
No, I think that's exactly right. You hope you're doing the right thing. You're hoping that you're providing an avenue for your players to get better, and you understand that you're not only affecting them on the field but off the field, and you hope you're doing it the right way. But when you hear the players say that, it just means so much more. And there were players there from my very first year. Obviously players, from this year, players from, that have played for me that are now coaches. Just incredible. And it's nice to know that everything you do for those guys is recognized, and that you've actually done it the right way. And I think that's the biggest thing. You think you do it the right way, but we're all doing this thing by the seat of our pants. We didn't get trained for this stuff, so it's just been really nice to see all the players recognize the efforts and very, very satisfying.
PK, appreciate the time here. We knocked it out in about 50 minutes. It could have been worse.
Yeah, that's great.
No,
not too bad a punishment.
Not too bad. Well, thank you for sitting down and doing this, and thank you. It's been my absolute honor the last few years to get a chance to be around you and interact with you and learn from you. So thank you for that, and thank you for doing this, and looking forward to many more to come.
Sounds good. Thanks, Nick.
Great stuff with PK there, and just such a cool season and cool moment for him, the 2,000 wins, and so many great stories from such a career and life, of course, really, in this game of baseball. He's got so many and has interacted with so many people over the years at all different levels of the game, including the big leagues, AAA, right on down throughout all the lower levels of the minors as well. There's a lot of people that have come into contact. There aren't many teams that the Bats play where somebody on the other side isn't immediately familiar with PK and everything he's done, and it has been certainly my pleasure to be around him the last several years. So again, however you found us, we certainly appreciate it, whether it's via iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube Music, however you've checked out the podcast, we appreciate it, and hopefully look forward to some future episodes. Not sure when the next one exactly will drop. Obviously wanted to celebrate PK2K with this one shortly in the aftermath of that 2000th win. But again, the plan to have a lot of people that have played a role in this ballpark, Louisville Slugger Field, as it will celebrate its 25th season of baseball in 2025. We may rehash a couple of old episodes as well with some people we've caught up with who have played a major role in this ballpark. But that's what we're hoping to do. Check back for another episode, hopefully in the not-too-distant future, and certainly hoping to keep this going into the off-season as well to sort of fill the void between the 24 and 25 seasons. My name's Nick Curran. Thanks again for tuning in. The Louisville Bats Podcast. We will catch you, hopefully not 2 years from now, next time with a celebration of 25 years of Louisville Slugger Field. Thanks for being with us.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Bunny some peanuts and cracker jack.